And good morning, folks. Please be seated.
Good morning,
Mr. O'Toole.
John, sir. Thank you. This is the matter of the state of Washington versus Joseph McEnroe. Case number 071087416-4, Seattle. Mr. McEnroe is present this morning in court with his counsel. My name is Scott O'Toole, and along with Michelle Morales, we appear on behalf of the state.
Thank you. Good morning again. This morning I received a motion from the defense to prohibit cross-examination and introduction of evidence regarding constitutionally protected art and pictures. Mr. O'Toole, have you received that document as well, I assume?
I have received it.
And have you had an opportunity?
At about 8:22 this morning or so, somewhere around that time.
Okay, I think you and I both got it about the same time again.
And what I would ask of the court, if the court would not mind, I don't need, if we need to go down that path, I don't need to go down that path before this afternoon. So what I've done is I've forwarded the brief on to others to see if they could take a look at it and help me fashion a response. So that if we need to respond to it, maybe do it at 1:30, or if I may not be done at the end of the day, but I certainly would not go down that path without alerting the court and counsel that it is the next subject.
Okay. Mr. Presti, any quarrel with that?
No, we just wanted to make sure the issue is vetted before it comes up in open court. So.
Okay. No problem. The one thing I would ask you, Mr. Presti, in advance, because this may be what I need to know in order to rule on this, if it becomes something that I have to adjudicate somehow, I would like to know exactly what the name of the infraction is and what part of the code, if you will, over in the jail was violated. Because right now I just have this vague, I possess nude pictures or something, and I can't believe that that's exactly the nature of the infraction.
Right. Let's see. The code is 222. That's the rule that was violated. But I don't know if that will tell you anything unless you have the proper manual.
And I don't.
And it's just called, it seems to just be called an infraction. I will review this and I'll try to get that information.
Okay, I think that would be helpful for all of us.
Right, yeah. And I don't know, and again, as I said in the motion, I don't know exactly what the state intends to introduce. I mean, this is all the discovery we got on it.
Okay.
But a lot of that, I can't believe that they would introduce a lot of that because it's simply, much of it is innocuous. So I just need to know what they would intend to do and what they want to do.
And like I said, I'm kind of anticipating what I might need to know in order to properly adjudicate this. So I would want the notice of infraction that he got, exactly what did that tell him he was infracted for, and the underlying infraction itself, which I guess is 222.
I guess, yes, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you.
You know, the third leg of that tripod might be if we were to give you a copy of what the materials were. We're happy to do that. We've got a copy here. If counsel will object.
That's fine. Again, I think the most salient thing is what they intend to introduce. I don't know.
Exactly.
maybe Mr. O'Toole could just put on the record the production numbers that he's handing up to the judge.
There's we put a cover sheet on this so that the images wouldn't be on top or exposed, so to speak. So the cover sheet is document production number 21,339. And then we have included all that was taken, almost all that was taken at the time of the infraction, beginning at page 21,346 through 21,625. There's about 280 pages of material. This is produced double-sided. Not all of it is pornographic, because I didn't want to be accused of only selecting the things that would be of interest to Mr. Prestia, or to me for purposes of this motion. So it's all inclusive here.
Okay, and at this point in time, can you hallmark for us what exactly you might want to be utilizing out of this, or have you not decided yet?
Well, I was intending on offering the entire packet, and I'll give you my theory as an overview. It helps the court. On direct examination, Mr. McEnroe testified that he has been infracted, and I think the way he described it was for drawing pictures of nude women. It's the state's position, and none of those pictures of nude women were included in the materials that were then submitted, offered, and admitted into evidence and available to the jury. What you have in front of you are 280 pages, of which over 100, more than 100, I think could be described as pornographic, either softcore or hardcore pornography. As I say, I included everything to try to be comprehensive and fair to Mr. McEnroe, because there are images of women similar to the ones that the jury was shown, where they're only facial drawings and things like that. There are drawings of animals and other things, I think inanimate objects and all. But of the 280 so pages, more than 100 of the pages I would suggest contain pornographic images, and on some of those pages contain multiple pornographic images. And they would include women whose genitals are exposed, women who are masturbating, women who are engaged in sex acts with men. And the idea is that I think it's unfair to leave this jury with the impression that Mr. McEnroe has been somehow mistreated by the jail because these are simply nude women that would be considered to be art by somebody else. And they may be considered to be art, but they're still infractions. And what my proposal was to have him authenticate that entire packet, not show any of the pornographic images to the jury, but have those in evidence in the event the jury feels the need to see them, to see exactly what the full scope of the infraction was. But I'm not planning on displaying them on the screen or publishing them to the jury, but they would be available if the jury wants to see them in the jury.
So what is your understanding of exactly what he was infracted for?
Possession of pornography.
Okay.
And I think that's what's labeled, that's what 222 is. I thought I saw an email that went between us that said pornography or possession of pornography.
I was just looking at the infraction itself, of which I do not have an extra copy, but I just didn't see a title on the top of the infraction. So I'm happy to share this. I don't think it's secret. The state probably has it, possibly even pinned up on Mr. O'Toole's.
What does it say, Mr. Christie?
It doesn't. It just says infraction, Your Honor.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll sort this out as soon as we can and figure out where we're going from here with it.
May I add just one thing?
I'm sorry?
May I add just one thing?
Absolutely.
I'm looking at a document entitled Inmate Infraction Report Disciplinary Hearing, dated January 22, 2013. Finding him guilty. Basis for decision, quote, VA states he was in possession of pornographic materials and states he does drawings, but was unaware the drawings violate jail rules. VA's explanation of situation and guilty plea accepted, unquote. So.
And, Your Honor, I'm looking at a different document just called Rule Infraction Report, so perhaps we should make sure we have the same reports. But I will say that without getting into an argument that will take the rest of the week, we want to argue about what's pornography. We've got a long road ahead of us. And what is hardcore versus softcore, and the societal opprobrium attached to that term carries with it such implications that I can't even begin to detail them right here.
The U.S. Supreme Court can't sort it out after 40 or 50 years. I don't think I'm going to do it in a day or a week.
Right, that's exactly my point. They said they know when they see it, but the justice who wrote that's now dead, so nobody knows what it is.
Well, in any event, find out the answers to those questions I had for you, and Mr. Toole, I gather you're going to find out from your appellate unit whether they think this is a path that's wise to proceed down, and then we'll reassess it all after the new hour, I guess.
That's fine.
And Kenya, one thing I need you to do for me, if you could get a hold of Jerry, the computer went belly up on me again, so the courtroom of the future. All right, so if you could invite the jury in, thank you.
Your Honor, may I add one thing as Ms. Hart walks into the back of the courtroom?
Yes, sir.
There was an exchange of emails this morning regarding the briefing on Mr. Sorensen and Ms. O'Connor's motion. And I think we're in agreement, if the court is in agreement, to defer that off until I think Friday the 1st. The state's brief would be due, and the reply would be due on May the 4th. And I don't know if you've had a chance to see it.
I haven't seen
Okay.
that, no.
Sorry.
And depending on how the computer works, I may never see it, but I appreciate the heads up, though. Thank you.
Are you going to want to take a break at some point to fix that?
I might have to, but I'll let you know when Jerry can get up here and sort it all out. But thanks for asking. I appreciate it. Yeah, I haven't got. I can't even get out of it now. It won't shut down, so I can't
Welcome back.
Thank you.
Mr. McEnroe, I'm going to pick up where I left off yesterday, I think.
Okay.
We were discussing your view as to whether Judy Anderson probably suffered as a result of her being shot multiple times by you. Do you recall those questions?
She certainly
Objection
did.
asked and answered. We went over this for 15 minutes yesterday.
Simply
I'm
reestablish.
going to overrule at the moment.
She certainly did. I'm sorry, that's just the way I talk. I wasn't trying to equivocate or downplay anything. That's just the way I talk. I was not trying to offend anybody or trying to downplay anything. She certainly did suffer. They all certainly did suffer. And yeah, I'm sorry that that's just the way I talk. I'm sorry.
Mr. McEnroe, and I mean no disrespect, but that's not just the way you talk, it's the way you think, is it not?
No, it's the way mostly just the way I talk. I mean, I'm not going to say that I think that there was any doubt in my mind that that's what happened.
Well, would you agree with me that you have told people in the past that what you did to Judy Anderson was basically an act of kindness?
I had thought that like I said yesterday, I thought that if she was going to die, then to go off and do it in the least painful way possible would have been better than letting it be worse than it had to be. But even then, that's not good enough.
Your belief is that you did her a favor.
No, it is not. My belief is that I failed her.
Well, Mr. McEnroe, let me ask you, do you recall telling Dr. Sally Johnson, the defense expert, that, quote, it seemed cruel to Judy to drag it out?
Yes.
And do you recall saying to Dr. Johnson that by that you meant that passing the gun to Michelle Anderson would have been cruel?
Yes.
You recall telling her because it would have been cruel to have Judy killed by her own daughter?
Yes.
So you're doing Judy a favor?
It's still a failure. It's still wrong.
But, Mr. McEnroe, That was the whole idea, according to your testimony, was it not? It was to have Michelle Anderson kill her parents.
Yeah. Yeah,
Because
she was the one who was convinced that she had to go off and do all these things. That she was the one who was convinced that she was having all these problems in her life because she wasn't killing everybody.
You told this jury on direct examination that the reason that you were compelled to do this is because you didn't think you were going to have to kill anybody.
This is correct, yeah.
And the reason that was is because the only way Michelle Anderson could get closure would be if she was the one to kill everybody.
Yeah.
But that's what you said in front of the jury.
Yes, it is.
That's not what you told your expert, Sally Johnson, is it?
Isn't it?
Didn't you tell Sally Johnson that you decided to do it because it would be mean and cruel to have Judy killed by her own daughter?
We had went up there to go and do exactly like I had said. And then when it came down to it, instead of going and passing the gun to Michelle, I just turned and I'm not saying that was right. I'm just saying that that's how it went. And my thought at the time was that it would have been cruel to go and pass the gun to Michelle, to drag it out any farther than it had to. And
That was your thought at the time. Correct?
Yeah.
And that's been your thought for the last 7 years until you got on the witness stand on direct examination when you changed it.
No.
Did you not tell Sally Johnson that you basically were doing Judy a favor because it would be cruel to have her killed by her own daughter?
I did say that, yes.
You told this jury that the story was that Michelle needed closure.
Yes.
That's not what you told Sally Johnson. Because closure would have meant Michelle Anderson killed her own mother, according to you.
But that's what she wanted. That's why we were there. So that she could kill these people.
Didn't you tell Sally Johnson, quote, there was nothing we could do, unquote?
I don't know what you're referring to.
Well, did you tell Sally Johnson at all what you told Detective Pavlovich? That you killed those children because they were witnesses?
I believe I did.
And you told this jury that you did it because you didn't think they were suffering.
That's part of it. I was wrong in that, but that was part of it.
And in fact, you told Sally, you last saw Dr. Sally Johnson 4 months ago or 5 months ago, whenever it was, in November of 2014, did you not?
I suppose so.
Do you not remember that?
I don't remember the date, no.
You recall it was while we were picking a jury in this case you were talking to her?
I guess so. I don't remember for sure.
Do you remember talking to her but just not the specific date?
Yes, that's what I'm trying to say.
And you told Sally Johnson, Dr. Sally Johnson, that the killing the children was not a spur-of-the-moment decision, didn't you?
Yes.
You told her that you and Michelle Anderson had talked about it beforehand.
Yes, I mentioned that I was not okay with it, and she went and built up that they were being corrupted, that they were, if they weren't already corrupted, and that why this, building up all these reasons why this had happened, why this would be a mercy and better than forcing them to go through what they've been going through and would go through otherwise. And that was crap. There was no reason to believe that they were having this life other than what Michelle said. There was no reason to believe that anything that she was saying was truer than what she said. But I still accepted it.
But you told
And when it came down to it, we're there, and I went along with her there because of these things that she had said, because of these beliefs that she'd fostered in me. And when it all came down, when we needed to get out of there, and it's just, we needed to get out, and the only way to get out of there was through them. And I didn't want to kill anybody, I didn't want to hurt anybody, but this was the only way out. And that's That's not an excuse. I'm not trying to excuse my actions at all. I'm just trying to explain why what happened happened. That does not go and say that what I did was right. That does not say what I did was removed from any guilt. Or, I mean, I totally failed these people, and I more than failed these people. I went and created these huge holes in everybody's lives, and I'm not trying to say anything other than that. All I'm trying to do is just explain what happened. I'm not trying to go and say that I did anything but fail.
Did you not tell the jury on direct examination, Mr. McEnroe, that you decided that you had to get out of there, so you killed the children?
That's what I believe I just said, actually.
Not because they were dark entities, but because you and Michelle Anderson had to get out of there and they were witnesses.
That's what I was thinking when it happened. The dark entities and everything else is what she told me to get me to be up there with her. And then when everything came down, I was in a panic, and I'm just like, we need to get out of here. We need to go, and the only way to go was through them. And as I've said, that was an error on my part. I couldn't have been more wrong, and I can't make any excuses for that, and I won't.
And my question for you is,
Okay.
that's not only what you thought at the time, it's what you've thought for the last 7 years until the day you testified.
No.
Did you not tell Dr. Sally Johnson that if you had taken off, the same deaths would have occurred, but the victims would have died really badly?
That's what I believed, yes.
And that you kept things from getting worse?
That's what I believed, yes.
You told Dr. Sally Johnson that if you're going to do something awful, just finish it, correct?
Yes.
Otherwise, it's sadism, in your words.
Mm-hmm. This is correct, yes.
Do you recall telling Dr. Johnson that you and Michelle Anderson went back up to the house after the murders and looked at the victims?
Trying to avoid looking at the victims, actually, but yes.
Do you recall telling Dr. Johnson that but for the bullet holes, everyone looked like they died in their sleep?
Yeah.
You recall telling Dr. Johnson they looked, quote, empty, not pained, unquote.
I would say that they didn't look like they were in pain, is what I was trying to say. They looked, the thing is that if you see on a TV show or a movie or whatever how somebody looks when they're dead, they don't look like that when they're dead. They look hollow. They look like something vital has been removed from them. And that's what I meant by empty. And as far as them looking unpained, it didn't look like they had suffered, is what it looked like to me. But obviously, as we have discussed, yes, obviously they did suffer. Obviously they did not want to die any more than I wanted to kill them.
And my question was, you told Dr. Johnson, did you not, that they looked, quote, empty, not pained, unquote?
Yes, and that's what I was just explaining.
And you told her that that made you feel better?
A little bit better. I mean, something this awful, no, it's been very difficult to live with, which is why, however this ends up, which is why I'm not trying to sit here and try and make excuses for myself. This is why I'm sitting here and just, however this ends up, it ends up. I made this huge failure. I own this, and however it goes, it goes. Not trying to excuse my actions. There is no excuse for my actions. I failed.
So it's not Michelle Anderson's fault at all, is it?
Yes, it is. I would not have hurt these people by any means. I didn't have anything against these people by any means. If not for her, she brought me there. She was the one who's like, okay, this has to happen. She's the one who built this all up. She's the one who said, okay, this has to happen. And then when we were there, she's the one who started it. She's the one who started both times.
Well, we're going to get to that in a couple minutes.
Okay.
In your view, the only person who did not suffer of all 6 of your victims was Scott Anderson, correct?
No, he suffered. I just can't say that I had anything to do with that. I'm not even going to say that that was just by an accident, that I didn't have anything to do with that. No, he certainly suffered as well. Maybe suffered more than everybody else.
Well, let me then correct my question. In your view, did you tell Dr. Johnson the only victim who suffered was Scott Anderson?
I had thought that because of the way that he had died, it looked like he died what I would say worse than the others.
Didn't you tell Dr. Johnson that the reason you believe only Scott had suffered was because he was the only one thinking at a high level?
I don't remember saying that, and I don't recall what I meant if I did say that. Though I'm sure I did. I just don't remember what I meant.
Do you recall explaining to her, quote, "That's why I missed him," unquote?
I think, no, I don't know what I would have meant by that. I'm sorry, I don't.
Are you saying you did not say that?
I'm saying I don't remember what I was talking about when I said that.
And the reason I take it that you think or thought up until the time you testified that he's the only one who suffered was because he fought back?
I thought that he was the only one who suffered because his death wasn't as instant as possible. Though obviously that, as we've already discussed, that doesn't matter. Obviously the other one suffered as well.
Are you suggesting that what you guys did to Erica Anderson was as instant as possible?
I'm suggesting that when I fired on her, when I killed her by firing a bullet into her head, that was as instant as I could, that was as instant of a death as possible.
She was shot 6 times, Mr. McEnroe.
I am aware of this. I am not the one who shot her, and in retrospect, saying anything else that she did not suffer from those bullet wounds is an obvious fallacy, and that was wrong of me to even imply that. I think I just wasn't, I guess I just didn't go off and take that into account, and I should have.
Did you just say to us that you did not think that you were directly responsible for Scott Anderson's death?
I do not believe I was directly responsible for Scott Anderson's death, no. Though, let me correct that. The fact is that I reloaded those guns, I was there with her, and even if for only those 2 reasons, though I'm sure there were others if I want to go and look just a little bit more, I am directly responsible for all of their deaths. I was not the driving force behind it, but I can't but admit that I was the guiding force behind it. I went up there with her, I went and made sure that everything was prepared, and I did everything I could to make sure that she was as safe as possible, and that included making sure that she was properly armed and everything else, and protected. And so, yes, that does put blame on me. You know, I did fail in this, and it is my responsibility and fault that these people died, from Scott to Wayne and downward.
You're just maintaining it's not your direct responsibility.
I'm just maintaining that it was not my choice to go over and do these things. If it had been left to me, we would have just left. But since it was established that she's going to do this anyway, it didn't cause me to question that she would do this anyway. So,
McEnroe, it was left to you, was it not?
I don't understand.
Did not Ms. Anderson mention to you and ask you a number of times on the day of the murders and the day before, are you sure you want to go through with this? You don't have to do this?
No. I was going and saying this to her. The one time that she had said anything like that, she'd already went off, like, made it obvious that, okay, this is going to happen, and you don't have. Actually, no, she said that several times where she had said, okay, you don't have to come with me. I'll go off and do this myself. But I'd prefer you to come with me. If I had just been able to say, look, I don't want this to happen, that would have been something completely else, because I've been saying that the entire time. I didn't want this to happen.
She said multiple times to you, you don't have to be part of this, and you made the decision to do it.
Yes.
And if you had not been any part of it,
They would have survived.
everybody would be alive today.
Yeah.
But for you,
I didn't realize that at the time, but yeah. Yeah, but for me.
the fact that you do not think that you're directly responsible for Scott Anderson's death is not for a lack of trying, am I correct?
No, it is not for lack of trying.
In fact, you told the jury on direct examination, did you not? And when Scott was on the ground, on his back, unable to move, you put your gun against his head.
No,
and
that's
you
not what I
looked
said.
up. Excuse me. And you
Okay.
looked up. When you fired, you must have missed him because you said the bullet went into the TV.
Actually, no, that's not what I said.
What did you say?
What I said was when he was over Shell, when he was grappling with Shell, I came up against him, put the gun against his head, and I looked up, and when I looked up, the gun must have tracked up, and because when I fired, I saw it hit the TV, and I guess that's all that it hit, because he fell right back then. I thought I had hit him. I did try to shoot him to get him off, yes.
Had
So
you
that
been-
doesn't make me any less directly responsible, you're right.
Had you been successful, Mr. McEnroe, you would have shot every single victim in the head.
And I believe that I had, yes. That is
And had you been
correct.
successful, Michelle Anderson would not have shot anybody in the head. In fact, she never shot anybody in the head, did she?
No, she did not. She tried to, but then she missed the one time that she did try to,
But fortunately, you were there.
unfortunately.
You just said to the jury now that this has been difficult for you to live with.
Yes.
Is that correct?
And I'm not even going to pretend that it's been less difficult for the people who we heard from and everybody else. I'm not trying to downplay that at all. I wouldn't. I'm just trying to say that it's not been easy for me to live with, and that doesn't take anything away from them or anything. I'm just saying that it's been very difficult for me to handle as well. That's all.
Are you the victim here?
No, I am not.
It has not been as difficult, though, as you would like this jury to believe. Am I correct?
Why do you believe that?
Well, in a sense, it's your view, and it has been your view for 7 years, that you were doing the victims a favor, were you not?
Objection asked and answered.
This is a different subject.
Overruled. Go ahead and answer.
Okay. My view was that I was trying to give them as painless as possible of a death.
No, I'm
That does not mean that I was doing them a favor. I was trying to keep it from being any worse than it had to be. And do I view that as a favor? No, it's still not a failure on my part. It's still their deaths. That doesn't change that they're dead. And it doesn't change the loss of that everybody else has had to go through because of their deaths.
McEnroe, have you not told people over the last 7 years that, in your view, you sent your victims off to a better life?
That was my hope at the time, yes. That I gave them the chance. That I gave them the chance to go off and restart over with a new life that might hopefully be better.
For you, death, not a big deal?
Death is, for the person who dies, it's part of a cycle of death and rebirth, reincarnation, and that doesn't go and take away. Now, so in a way, it goes and starts them all the way over and having to live their lives over again. Now, that doesn't go and take away from the suffering that I've inflicted on their friends and family and the people who knew them and who cared about them. So obviously it is still a big deal. It is still a failure on my part.
It is still a favor?
It's failure.
Didn't you tell Dr. Sally Johnson, in your view, quote, death is just a brake light?
Brake light?
Yes, brake light.
No, that's... She might have misheard me and put down the word. That's not a word that I remember using. I have no idea what that word would even mean.
June 14th, 2011, did you not say that to Sally Johnson? Death is a brake light?
I don't know what... I don't remember ever actually using that word. I don't know what that word would mean.
Do you remember telling her, death is not an end, just a return to the cycle?
Yes.
And you told her that Judy had to die anyway, and there was no point in dragging it out?
That was my belief, yes.
In fact, Judy was wrapping presents right before she was murdered by you, correct?
Yes, she was.
And you were in the back in the craft room with her.
And we were talking, yes.
And you were fully armed, fully armed with your .357
Yes, I was.
in your holster,
Yes.
hidden underneath your jacket.
Yes,
And you remember the conversation you were having with Judy?
I do.
You were consoling her about the loss of her mother's boyfriend.
Yes, I was.
And you were telling her about sometimes you don't know what you have until it's gone.
And I was also trying to tell her that he's probably gone to better things now because I was trying to let her be at peace when it happened.
When what happened?
When she died, when I killed her.
So in the minutes before Judy Anderson died, you were preparing her so that she was at peace because she was about to be shot in the head.
Yes. Yes.
My guess is you were pretty convincing. She never suspected a thing, did she?
That's not... I wasn't trying to go and put her at peace about that. I was trying to put her at peace so when she died, she wouldn't suffer and have a hard time being reborn. That's what I meant. That's what I meant by at peace. That spiritual peace. I don't mean that she wasn't to get her off guard. That's not what I mean at all. Though I can see how it would be taken as that. That's not what I meant.
When you were consoling Judy Anderson in the minutes before you knew she was going to be shot to death,
Yes.
you have no reason to believe she had any idea what was coming.
No. No reason at all.
And in fact, your purpose was to distract her so Michelle Anderson could confront her father.
That was one of my purposes, yes. The other purpose was to, if possible, make it so that she wouldn't have as hard of a transition out of this life as possible. Again, that doesn't make it right. I was doing what I could and it wasn't enough. I'm not even going to pretend that it was. Or that it was right. It was not.
By lying to her, by consoling her, by doing everything that you could to mislead her, you think you're doing her a favor.
I don't think I was lying to her, but I was misleading her. That's what matters, is that I was misleading her, and yeah, that's all that matters right now. You're right. I failed these people on that too.
She trusted you, didn't she?
She did.
She believed you.
Yeah, she did.
Would you agree with me that you have no problem at all deceiving people when it suits your ends?
I would not agree with you on that, no. I would agree with you that when it came down to it, when I felt that I had to deceive people to protect home, to protect Michelle, then I was okay with doing it. I did not like doing it, but I felt that I had to do it, and so I accepted that. I do not agree that I have no problem with deceiving people to suit my own ends.
You also talked with Dr. Johnson about having that same view of easing Olivia and Nathan into another life as well, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
And you mentioned to Dr. Johnson one of the reasons why is because Olivia and Nathan had seen what happened.
And that I was concerned that this would go and cause them to be corrupted, as we had spoken of yesterday. This is something that Michelle had pounded into my head, and so I had accepted. And again, as I said yesterday, that doesn't make it right. In fact, no matter how things would have turned out, even if they had been corrupted, which they probably hadn't, it still would have been better than what ended up happening. It's still better than that massacre that happened.
You're not suggesting to the jury, are you, that the only option you considered with Michelle Anderson was to kill these children because you believe they've been corrupted?
Actually, I've been trying to go and convince her to let us just go, right? And she just was not going to accept that. And then when everything happened,
There was another option you discussed too, wasn't there?
leaving? Yes.
I'm talking about that day, the day before, the week before, the month before. You and Michelle Anderson talked about adopting the children, didn't you?
Not that day, not the week before, not even... I'd actually brought it up, saying, well, maybe we could adopt them. And that was something that quickly came to a realization of that's not a realistic option. I was hoping that by bringing that up, that would go off and like get her to just drop it. Not that it would go and like lead to them dying. And yet I'm the one who did the firing. So no, that doesn't fit on that level too.
You and Michelle Anderson discussed killing the children's grandparents, killing their parents, but maybe adopting the children.
I tried to talk her out of killing any of them. I'd spent a lot of time trying to talk her out of killing any of them, and she just did not want to accept that. She just could not have what she felt that she was owed. She could not have her revenge or whatever. So,
Mr. McEnroe, if these children were corrupted and in the end had to die, why would you ever suggest adopting them?
this was before she'd ended up going and saying the corruption and all that other stuff after I'd point out that this was not a realistic option. And she got me to believe that.
You told Dr. Johnson, did you not, that instead of a life of hatred and grief for what the children had witnessed, you decided to, quote, let them recirculate, be reborn, unquote.
Yeah. And like I said just now, that it would have still been better than what actually happened. Even if they were, I mean, for God's sake, I have no doubt that even if things had worked out in a different way and everybody else had died, I'm sure that their maternal grandparents would have raised them well and left them with quite happy childhoods and lives, but for those memories. So And even if they had turned out to be completely as corrupt as I had feared, as she had led me to feel, that still would have been right. It's not my place to judge. And I wasn't trying to do so.
You just fired a bullet into each of their heads.
Yes. I just accepted her arguments and believed that what had to happen happened. So,
Mr. McEnroe, would you agree with me that you're a pretty smart guy?
in some ways I'm obviously submoronic.
We heard Dr.
I'm sorry, I just didn't hear the last word.
I said in some ways. In other ways, I'm obviously submoronic.
Good. I'm sorry, I still didn't get it.
I said, in some ways, I'm pretty smart. In other ways, I'm obviously submoronic.
You had a pretty good vocabulary.
Yes.
In fact, would you say it's a great vocabulary?
I'd say it's pretty good.
You know how to write, you know how to write well.
Yes.
Dr. Beaver told us you have an IQ of between 112 and 117.
High normal, yeah.
Pretty much think that you're the smartest guy in any room that you're sitting in?
Absolutely not, no. I believe that everybody has intelligence that manifests in different ways. I don't really believe that anybody is, when all things are considered, more intelligent than anybody else. It's just that everybody has their own adaptations to their own milieu.
I'm sorry, did you say milieu?
Milieu, yes.
And your intelligence was a source of friction between you and Michelle Anderson, wasn't it?
Yeah, actually, she felt. I'd mentioned at one point that I'd taken a test at one point, and it had come up that I had a decent intelligence, and she had gotten really upset about that. And every time afterwards, when I would forget something or whatever, or not track things properly, she would say, "Don't you ever say you're smart again."
But you thought it nonetheless.
And I'm taking no.
Well, didn't we see an example of that in your journal?
No, not really. You actually took it out of context. What I was saying is that I was actually very upset at myself in that, and the fact that I had not meant to insult her, but that I did by accident. I thought that she knew that penicillin was the mold, and hence the mold on the thing was penicillin, and hence antibiotic. The fact that she hadn't realized that was like, oh, great. That was a huge mistake on my part. This was actually me beating myself up in though, and where I said, I'm so fucking clever. That was not me saying, look at how smart I am. It was actually me, being sarcastic and ripping at myself. Clever was not a word that we used as a good thing. Clever was like Picasso, or just things that just really don't make any sense, but the whole point is that they don't make any sense, like cubism. These things that are just wastes of, look at how smart I am. I'm so smart you don't understand what I'm talking about, kind of thing. And that's just completely meaningless and worthless and clever.
Tell us what cubism is.
Cubism is a type of painting that was, I think, might have been done by Picasso, spearheaded by Picasso, where it's literally brings everything down to cubes. I've studied some history, including 20th century history in here, and Cubism, being a major art movement of the 20th century, fell into that.
Mr. McEnroe, when you say I took out of context your comments about the penicillin and the mold,
Yes.
do you remember Mr. Prestia talking to you about that?
I do not right now, no.
He's the one who brought it up?
Okay, well, then it was a little bit out of context when he took it out then. I don't know.
But
that entry in your journal, does it not go on for paragraphs about your frustration in trying to explain something that you felt was so simple that penicillin comes from common mold, and Michelle Anderson just didn't get it?
Actually, it was talking about the combined frustration of how I'm trying to tell her, it's like, look, it's this. And she was getting frustrated and upset with me. And I'm like, no, look, it's just this. I'm trying to explain something, but because of my own lack of capacity of like understanding what her problem is, I'm having a hard time getting across what that missing link is. It's not me insulting her at all. It's me insulting myself and kind of like, oh, this is frustrating. I did not lord my intelligence over her at all. I did not, and I do not believe that I'm smarter than her.
So when you wrote, and I apologize for the language, I'm so fucking clever, in a journal that was intended only to be read by you, you're telling the jury didn't really mean that.
I already told you what clever meant. I was ripping at myself. I'm like, I'm so fucking clever.
So we have mixed up pronouns here. It's just, this is...
No, it's not mixed up pronouns. It's me going in. You're not... But that's not me saying that I'm cleverer than her or anything. That's actually me. Like I just said, clever is something that was actually considered something along the lines of pointless over-intellectualization. And in fact, distracting, destructive, or even meaningless into over-intellectualization. And that's me pointing out how much of an asshole I am. Not saying that she wasn't particularly intelligent. That's going off from pointing out that I was being stupid by not getting what she was talking about.
It's your claim, is it not, that every chance you've gotten, you've talked about your relationship with Michelle Anderson and your claim that she manipulated you.
Yes.
She dominated you.
Yes.
She controlled you.
Yes.
Sounds like you're the victim here.
No.
You're not claiming you're the victim of an overbearing woman named Michelle Anderson?
I am the victim of an overbearing woman, but that still does not absolve me from my own mistakes, from my own errors.
You're claiming, aren't you, that you just couldn't stand up to her?
I could not. There were times when I tried, and she just bore me down under the weight of her arguments, of her personality, and it's just...
Well, one example that you gave on direct examination was a woman named Amber Fleeter.
Yeah.
And we met Ms. Fleeter yesterday.
Yeah.
You recall that? She's the one with the pink
I remember
shirt.
her, yes.
And I believe you told us on direct examination that you met her online,
Yes.
developed an online relationship with her,
Yes.
and the two of you met in person only once.
Yes.
That was up in Vermont.
Yes.
And she confirmed all of that.
Yes. I would say that she was my best friend, yes.
And you testified on direct examination, did you not, that Michelle Anderson interfered with your relationship with with Amber Fleeter?
That she felt very jealous and angry, and that she ended up making me believe that Amber was actually insulting and as bad as Michelle acted like she was. And so I ended up cutting her off, and actually cutting her off quite brusquely by emails, and emails that I ran by Michelle. And if it wasn't brusque, if the language wasn't brusque enough, if it wasn't cruel enough, she'd have me rewrite it until it was cruel enough. And so I actually ended up parting that relationship under quite bad terms, and that's not something that I would have chosen by myself. By myself, I would have just, even if I didn't want to talk to somebody anymore, I would just stop talking to them, not telling them off. I mean, still how it happened, and I've failed home as well. But I failed everybody.
You told this jury, did you not, on direct examination, that Michelle Anderson insisted that you break off contact with Amber Fleeter?
That's what I was just trying to say, yes.
And it was your belief that that was part of Michelle Anderson's plan to control you?
I don't know if I would say that it was part of her plan to control me. I would say that it was part of her plan to, not even so much her plan to control me, just a reaction of her jealousy. She was a very jealous person.
And you told us, as you just repeated here, that your claim is you had to write drafts of emails
Yes.
to Amber Fleeter, and that Michelle Anderson had to approve them because that's how much she controlled you.
Yes. Not so much because that's how much she controlled me, but that's how angry she was and how insistent she was that we do things this particular way.
May I ask you, when did you come up with this theory about why you ended contact with Amber Fleeter?
I don't understand.
When did you come up with the theory? For this trial?
I don't understand what you're getting at. I mean, I understand, okay, when did you come up with this theory? What theory? What are you talking about? I'm trying to tell you what happened. I'm not trying to come up with a theory.
McEnroe, I'm going to hand you what has been admitted as your journal.
Okay,
Defense Exhibit 179A.
thank you.
And would you agree with me that that journal, your journal, are your writings?
This is my writing, yes.
They're private,
Yes.
not meant for anybody else to read, am I correct?
Though, of course, she could have come by and read it at any point, yes.
I'm going to have you turn to page 5450.
Okay. All right.
And you see the entry there for June 5, 2005 p.m.?
Yes, I do.
And you wrote the following, quote, "It's entries like the last one that make me glad nobody else reads this. I come off as an asshole a lot because at the very least I can be very much of one," unquote.
Yes.
And in fact, you confirmed for us last week, these are your innermost thoughts. These are your journal.
Yes.
If I could have you turn to page 5420.
5420?
Let me know when you're there.
You said 5420, right?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
The entry for September 7, 2003.
Okay.
You write there, quote, "It sounds like those little assholes are back. If we can't borrow Scott's gun, I'll buy a shotgun from a pawn shop.
Yeah.
Don't push me. I don't care what you do, but fuck with me. You'll never fuck with anyone else again.
Yes.
I'm sure if I do something, this will end up being evidence of premeditated murder."
Yes.
You wrote that.
Yes, I did.
Those are your private thoughts, are they not?
Yes, it is.
And you told us last week on direct examination that you were forced to cut off your online activity with Amber Fleeter because Michelle got jealous.
Yes.
And she was especially jealous with Michelle with Amber Fleeter because she thought it was disrespectful.
She felt that Amber was disrespectful, though Amber just tried to be friends with her, so.
You said there was one instance where Amber wanted to talk to Michelle online and that Michelle's reaction was anger.
Yes.
And that Michelle Anderson convinced you that Amber was not a good person to have around.
It was following that conversation, yes.
And that's when you recounted us with the story that you had to write drafts of a communication to Amber about how to break off contact, and that Michelle Anderson would review those drafts and tell you that they were not good enough.
Yes, and there were several times that I had to do that.
If I could have you turn to page 5411.
Okay.
You see the entry
That's
dated August 30th, 2003,
Yes.
near the bottom of that page.
Okay.
Quote, "What else? Oh, Amber. Okay, here we go. Amber and I had been friends for a while, and looking back, I realized it was a friendship of convenience more than anything else. She did what she wanted, how and why she wanted. I'd be assumed to deal with it. Her narcissism had grown worse, or maybe even noticeable, once I really got together with Shelley. Shell never liked her. She tried, but Amber just pushed all the wrong buttons.
Okay.
Finally, I blocked Amber." Finally, I blocked Amber and everyone else. It did the job. Amber caught me on a screen name I don't use much and didn't have her blocked on. Actually, it wasn't me she caught. Shelley was on that SN, which stands for screen name, right?
Yes.
Amber acted like an ass, as usual, and Shell informed her that she was going to be blocked on this screen name too.
Yes.
She hadn't known I was blocking her, so she got all pissed. Like it was a great betrayal to be sick of her shit.
Yes.
Not once did she ask why I was blocking her or express the least concern she defended me. This justifies everything, unquote.
Yeah.
That's why you stopped contact with Amber Fleeter.
Because I believed Shell. Because I believed Shell's interpretations of things, yes.
And where in there does it say, the reason I stopped contact with Amber Fleeter was because of Michelle?
It does not.
Where does it say in there, by the way, I'm really getting tired of writing all these draft communications
It does not.
that Michelle has to review?
It does not. No, I accept completely that I had went and that I did Amber very wrong in that, and I've apologized. I accept completely that I did Amber very wrong in that, and I've apologized to her as well for my misactions as directly impacted her that, and taking Michelle's views as gospel. I should not have, and I should not have reacted to her in the way that I did. But
Mr. McEnroe, the reason that you broke contact with Amber Fleeter was for exactly the reason you wrote, quote, "It was a friendship of convenience more than anything else. She did what she wanted, how and why she wanted. I'd be assumed to deal with it," unquote. Correct?
no, the reason I broke off with her was because I took Michelle's beliefs of that, as she was saying, that it was a friendship of Michelle was the one who was telling me that it was a friendship of convenience, and that I had to go off like that. She was being very disrespectful and all this other stuff, and the thing is that just, it wasn't true. But I acted on it anyway. I accepted that, and I acted on it anyway.
Where in the journal of your
It
private
does not.
writings...
It does not say that at all.
Objection. He's still answering the question.
It does not say that at all in my journal at all. It's just, I would accept her.
Let's go back.
I'm sorry.
Ask the question, Mr.
Where in your journal does it say that it was Michelle Anderson's idea that Amber Fleeter's friendship was a matter of convenience? Where?
It does not.
Where does it say that it was Michelle Anderson's view of Amber as narcissistic?
It does not.
Where does it say in your private journal, no one else is supposed to read, that Michelle Anderson said that Amber acted like an ass?
It does not.
Where in your private journal does it say that it was Michelle Anderson's idea that you were, quote unquote, sick of her shit?
It does not.
Everything is Michelle Anderson's fault, not yours, correct?
I'm not saying that. In fact, I haven't been saying that the entire time that I'm up here. I still, even though she was the one who impressed this on me, I still accepted it. And I was still wrong in accepting it. I'm trying to explain exactly what happened and why. I'm not trying to go and get myself off of any kind of hook. I'm just trying to explain what happened and why.
And that's why it appears nowhere in your private journal.
Objection asked and answered. Overruled.
It doesn't appear anywhere in my private journal because I wasn't thinking about it. It did not seem important. I mean, I took an oath when I came up here, and so I'm trying to tell you what happened. So if you choose not to believe me, that's how it is.
Mr. McEnroe, you're not suggesting to this jury in any way, are you, that these murders that you committed were a spur-of-the-moment thing?
No.
In fact, I think you admitted on direct examination that the subject of killing Michelle Anderson's family had been raised for at least a year.
She had been planning on this and trying to come up with ways to justify it for a year, and I've been trying to come up with ways to let go of this idea for nearly that long, and eventually I just gave up. Yes.
In fact, you guys chose Christmas Eve for a particular reason, did you not?
She chose Christmas Eve for a particular reason, that they would all be there and that she'd be able to get at all of them without anybody else being around. Yes.
Do you remember Dr. Johnson asking you in November of 2014, was that 4 months ago, why Christmas Eve?
I do not remember my answer for that, no.
Remember saying it's when you could get all the people all at one time, there would be no one to stop you?
That's what I just said, yes.
That you and Michelle discussed how you'd not be able to get them at home, but you needed to get them at Christmas or Thanksgiving.
Yeah, I pointed out to her, it's like, look, because she had wanted to go in, she initially wanted to go in, like, get Scott at his walk, follow him home, get him at walk, then drive to his place and kill Erica there. And I'm like, look, that's not going to work. You realize that these people live right down the street from a police station. Now, obviously, that's not the best reason, that's not an acceptable thing. It's obviously that these people weren't people and did not deserve to die like that.
It's hard to hear you, Mr. McEnroe.
It's obviously that these people were people and did not deserve to die at all anyway. But that's not the sort of thing she wanted to hear. I was stuck going and walking with only logical arguments of why this was unwalkable, as opposed to moral arguments, because she didn't care about moral arguments. As far as she was concerned, these things had happened, and the reason she was having problems was because she wasn't taking the appropriate action against these things when they did happen.
And you continued to talk with Michelle Anderson, not just in the year before, but in the month before. The conversations increased, didn't they?
It wasn't so much conversations, it was more of her going over it again and again and again from as many different angles as she could come up with. And it was a continual stream, basically, all day.
You remember telling Dr. Johnson that the two of you went over the plan for a month before?
It wasn't so much a two-way conversation. It was more of her going over her little plan, as it were, the entire time, the entire month, as I just said.
And you recall telling Dr. Johnson that you and Michelle forgot to consider DNA evidence.
This is correct.
You're telling Dr. Johnson that you figured when you committed these murders that you'd be dealing with a quote-unquote podunk police department.
This is correct. However, we got, as you can tell, the King County Sheriff's Office, which
It's difficult to hear, Mr. McEnroe. I'm not trying to interrupt.
I understand. I'm sorry. No, and however, we got, instead of some podunk police department, we got the King County Sheriff's Office, and it's very skilled and very professional elements and detectives, yes.
But when the two of you were planning these murders, you were counting on a podunk police department.
Yeah.
And then something significant happened about a month before the murders that made you think, this is really something that's going to happen. Remember what that was?
Yes, I do, in fact. It was about a month and a half prior to the murders, in fact. In that I'd been, one of the things that I was hoping would go and maybe give us an out from having this happen was to get a promotion, and then it's like, okay, then I'm going to be busy and won't be able to go and be part of this thing, so maybe that'll go and keep it from happening. Instead, somebody else got hired for the promotion, and
Mr. McEnroe, I'm not trying to interrupt. It's a little tough to hear you. You can speak up.
okay. Instead, somebody else got hired for that position, and so to me, in fact, that was a sign that that was kind of a sign that, okay, well, this is how it's supposed to happen, and so I'm supposed to quit and do this stuff, and that's what she sold me on. That's what I believed. That,
To her and to me, that was a sign that this was supposed to happen.
and that's what she sold me on. That's what I believed, and so it happened. And though these two things obviously had nothing in common and no relation at all, still I walked out.
When you were passed over for the position for the promotion at Target, you were hurt and angry you didn't get the job, weren't you?
I was mostly upset that the anger I felt was more of Michelle's, in that it was that they felt that I wasn't a good enough lead, and that I didn't have the self-confidence to be able to handle this. And I'm like, though I couldn't really argue with that, I still felt that as far as skill level went, I was capable of. I was probably a better leader than the guy that they brought in. Still, I did accept her anger, and I felt that anger myself, that frustration. So I was upset, yes.
Did you just say that the anger was mostly Michelle's?
Yes. She was very angry about that.
Do you recall telling Dr. Johnson that you were indignant?
Yeah.
You recall describing yourself as, quote, pissed off, unquote?
I was upset about it, yes.
And you took it as a sign that your plan should be happening.
That's what she sold it to me as, and that's what I accepted it as, yes.
And that was more than a month before the murders.
That was a month and a half, yes. And so she wanted me to quit right then, and I did not want to do that. I wanted to go and give them at least 2 weeks' notice. And at this point, I'm really, one of the reasons I was so upset about it was because it means that there was another out that has just gone to the wayside. I was really hoping that if I had gotten that promotion, that would have been enough to keep this from happening. But in all reality, all I needed to do to keep this from happening would have been to just walk away, or just simply not be there for her. And I failed on that too.
Mr. McEnroe, why would you need a reason to walk away from it if she convinced you that it had to happen? These people were corrupt.
I still didn't want it to happen. Just because, even if they weren't corrupt, even if they weren't bad people, even if they weren't doing all the things that they said she was, even if they weren't doing all the things that she said they were doing, that's not on me. It's not my job to go off and decide who should live and who should die. I did not want that. I did not want that responsibility. I did not want that to be put in that position.
You guys even talked about this in detail the day before the murders, did you not?
I'm sorry, what in detail?
Well, let me ask you about an incident that was testified to a little bit earlier.
Okay.
The last time that Michelle Anderson saw her mother, Judy, before Judy was murdered by you,
Yes.
was a day or two before Christmas, was it not?
I believe it was, yeah, I can't remember if it was the day before Christmas, yeah, but I think it was the day before Christmas.
It was
I mean,
the day
the day before Christmas, yeah, the 23rd.
December 23rd, 2007.
I believe that's correct, yes.
Michelle Anderson and her mother, Judy, were Christmas shopping.
Yeah.
And we heard Mary Victoria Anderson talk about this when she testified about 2 or 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Remember how she testified that she talked with Judy, her mother, on the phone?
I do, actually, yeah.
And that Judy was with Michelle Anderson.
Yeah.
And Michelle asked Mary Victoria Anderson if she was going to be there the next day, Christmas Eve, for dinner.
Yeah, I remember hearing that and being really glad that she wasn't. I did not know that there was that good of a probability that she was going to be coming. I did not know that. She did not choose to shell it with me, and I'm glad that she did not come.
I'm sorry, I cannot.
I'm sorry. She did not choose to shell the probability that Mary Victoria might be coming, or how definite she was about that. I honestly did not know that. She did not shell it with me, and I'm really glad she didn't. Thank God she didn't. I don't know what would have happened. I would not have been inclined to do anything myself, but I don't know what any more than I was when Scott showed up. I was really hoping that he would go off and like give her the money and that would be enough for us to just leave. But no, things were just really out of hand, and so I'm glad that she did, because I would not have wanted her to die too, and she might have if she had come, and thank God she didn't.
Do you remember telling Dr. Johnson that although Michelle Anderson was Christmas shopping with her mother, Judy, on December 23rd, 2007, Michelle did not buy any presents?
I remember that, yes.
You remember the reason that you gave to Dr. Johnson as to why Michelle did not buy any presents?
I do not remember the answer, no.
You remember telling Dr. Johnson it was because you guys were planning to kill them all the next day?
I do not remember saying that, but that's accurate. That is accurate. I just don't remember saying it, that's all.
On December 23rd, 2007, when Michelle Anderson was shopping for Christmas presents, one of which included a present called The Simpsons Movie,
Yeah.
Michelle wasn't buying presents because you guys knew there was no point. That family was going to die on Christmas Eve.
That's what we just established, yes.
And as you talked, as you mentioned, there are a number of occasions in which Michelle Anderson gave you a chance to back out.
No, she didn't.
Do you remember on the day before Christmas, Michelle Anderson told you that you did not have to come?
She would say that I didn't have to come, but that she wanted me to be there, and she wanted me, that even if I wasn't there, she wanted me to help her clean up.
You were telling Dr. Johnson that Michelle Anderson told you that you didn't have to come along, but if she was going up there, you wanted to be there to protect her.
Yes.
You were telling Dr. Johnson on the night before the murders, you said to Michelle Anderson, "I'm in."
At that point, there was, so I was trying to come up with ways to devote it, and I just couldn't. So, it's like, well, if you're going up there, then I'm going to be there with you. Yeah.
And you said, "I'm in."
I don't know if that's how I put it, but I suppose it is.
Right.
Same difference, one way or the other.
You were telling Dr. Johnson in November of 2014, 4 months ago, that you went along because you couldn't think of anything better.
I couldn't think of any way to avoid it, no. By that point, I'd given up.
In fact, something else significant happened on the day before the murders, too, didn't it? On December 23rd, 2007. Do you recall what that was?
I believe that's when Judy's mom's boyfriend died. Yeah.
You remember anything else significant that day?
I think one of Scott's cats died as well.
And do you remember anything else significant that day?
No?
You remember that you and Michelle Anderson were driving back from the store when Michelle was driven off the road, or almost drove another driver off the road?
When she almost drove somebody else off the road, yeah. God, I remember that.
And you
Where
told
she
Doc...
went and tried, she'd actually went and gotten cut off by some...
You need to speak up, Mr. McEnroe.
She'd gotten cut off by some gal in a little car, and she'd actually went and drove that gal into a ditch, and she had actually went for a gun. I'm like, look, you don't need to kill this person. I mean, you've already scared the crap out of her. She had wanted to go off and like teach this gal respect and to not cut people off or whatever. She was so big on respect and being put over, and she was just flipping out. And I'm like, look, this doesn't matter. Just you've already scared the hell out of her, so you need to just leave it. And I managed to talk her out of killing that person. So, yeah.
Do you remember how you persuaded her?
Yeah, I just said that.
Do you remember telling Michelle Anderson, quote, "You don't want to fuck things up for tomorrow," unquote?
It won't. She didn't kill this person.
You told Michelle Anderson on December 23rd, 2007, when she got angry at another motorist, not to retaliate, because in your words you said, quote, "You don't want to fuck things up for tomorrow," unquote.
If it kept her from going and killing somebody else, yeah.
But also allowed her to kill the entire Anderson family the next day.
Unfortunately, yeah. I was just trying to keep her from killing this person on the road. I was trying to keep her from killing this person that she'd just driven off the road and wanted very much to kill. I'm like, look, it was, in all reality, it probably would have been much better if she had just went off and killed that other person, but certainly not for that person.
And on the day of the murders, December 24th, 2007, she gave you more opportunities to back out, didn't she?
Like I said earlier, that once she'd already went and made very sort of that I was going to go with her and that she'd taken away all my options, then she asked, "Are you sure you're okay with this?" By then I'd already given up. And so I'm just like, whatever.
In fact, you told Dr. Johnson that you slept in that day of the murders, December 24th, 2007, didn't you?
Yeah, I was trying to sleep in and missed the window of opportunity to kill these people, yes.
And Michelle Anderson told you on that day that you don't have to go along.
That's what I was saying, yeah.
And as you just said, an hour before the murders, you told Dr. Johnson that Michelle Anderson said, "Are you sure you're okay with this?"
Yeah, that's what I just said.
And you remember what you said to Dr. Johnson, your response was?
I remember that my response was that if you believe that this has to happen, then you're probably right.
Would it surprise you to learn that Dr. Johnson wrote in your notes that your response was, quote, "I just wanted her to be happy," unquote?
That wouldn't surprise me at all.
And the way to make her happy was to murder everybody in her family.
The way to make her happy was to protect her as she went about doing this, yeah.
Mr. McEnroe, is it not true that you are more than willing to participate in these murders despite the many opportunities that Michelle Anderson gave you to back out?
That is not true.
You were excited about it, were you not?
Absolutely not.
You remember telling Dr. Johnson that you were, quote, "very excited about it like a kid on Christmas," unquote?
No, I don't. No. I was not excited about killing these people.
You remember telling Dr. Johnson you felt excitement, quote, "maybe a little," and some dread as well?
I only recall feeling dread.
Do you remember telling Dr. Johnson that in the end you decided, quote, "let's just get this over with"?
I do recall that, yes. Just giving up, and like I said, I gave up. It's like, okay, if this has to happen, then it has to happen. I give up. Let's just do this then. you're going to do this, then let's do this. And just, I recall a huge feeling of dread, and I did not, when I do this, I did not expect to survive this. It was not my intention to survive this. So I did it anyway. I was not excited.
You did not tell Dr. Johnson?
I do not recall
Quote,
saying
very
that.
excited about it like a kid on Christmas, unquote.
I certainly do not recall saying anything about excitement in that context.
You and Michelle Anderson got into that truck, did you not?
We did.
You drove up to Wayne and Judy's,
Yes.
and you went inside.
Yes.
And you had a ruse, didn't you?
Yes, we did.
And that ruse was your idea.
Yes, it was.
And you had a little pretend game
She
going.
had said that she'd asked if we could come up there to wrap some presents. And Judy had said, sure. But of course, we didn't have any boxes or anything that needed wrapping. So I grabbed a box, put some stuff in it, and I brought that box along.
You made the decision, you grabbed the box, and you brought the box along.
Yes,
And the reason you did that was
because she had
Wayne
said,
and Judy.
the reason I brought that box along was because she had said, we're going up there to wrap some presents. And yes, to fool Wayne and Judy, yes.
Was it your plan to wrap an empty box as a gift?
If it had come to that, I would have wrapped the empty box as a gift, but that's not how it went.
You would have done it because it would have helped you commit murder.
If it had come to that, it probably would have helped us walk away. But unfortunately, no, I did not want to kill these people.
You were wearing your .357 in a holster.
Yes,
Michelle Anderson had a 9mm,
yes, she did.
and it was concealed inside a sweatshirt that she was carrying.
Yes, sir.
Who made the statement, "We have a special present for Dad"?
She did.
And do you remember when she made that statement?
After we came in and Wayne had asked something about, I don't remember exactly what it was that he asked, but she had said that we have it's a special present for you.
Michelle Anderson went and she spoke with her father for a while, didn't she?
I believe so, yes.
Well,
I believe
you-
she was speaking with him while I was in the other room with Judy, yes.
While you were consoling Judy about the
Loss of her mother's boyfriend.
And just talking with her in general, yes.
Michelle Anderson was in the other room with her father.
Yeah. And then he had said something about Scott coming, and so we went into the kitchen, and I said, okay, look,
Excuse me, when you say we, you mean you and Judy or you and Michelle Anderson?
myself and Michelle.
You were getting a little concerned, weren't you, as you were talking to Judy and as you walked into the kitchen with Michelle, weren't you?
I was getting concerned that they would show up and that this would become an even worse thing than it would already be in. So I was saying, look, if you want to just, what I was trying to say is, if you want to just go, we can go. But what it came out as is, okay, so these guys are coming, you want to just move the truck, and while we're at it, if you're going to do this thing, then do it. Otherwise, let's just go. Like I said, what I was trying to say is, you know, if you don't want to do this, we can just go. But unfortunately, I said that very poorly, and she took it as encouragement, and so she acted on that.
You were telling Dr. Johnson you were a little concerned about the time.
I was, yes.
Remember telling Dr. Johnson that you and Michelle Anderson arrived at about 2:30 in the afternoon?
Yes.
So when we talked yesterday about whether you knew or could recall what time you arrived, that wasn't really true, was it?
I was trying to remember what time it was, actually, and for the officer.
You told Dr. Johnson about 2:30 in the afternoon.
I've had more time to think about it since then. I was trying to give the officer the most accurate time that I could.
So when you were talking to the officer less than 48 hours after the murder, your memory was worse than when you were talking to Dr. Johnson years later.
When I was talking to Detective Pavlovich, shortly after the murders, I'd been spending the first 48 hours trying to block that from my mind and trying to build up something else. There's some way that things should have happened, but that, as I've already expressed, did not work, obviously, and obviously everybody was still dead and things still happened the way they happened, and no matter what you could go off and change that.
You remember telling Dr. Johnson that you and Michelle hung out for about a half an hour to an hour talking with Wayne and Judy,
Yes.
and that you knew Scott and Erica and the kids were coming.
Yeah. The reason that we were there at that time was because we did not. I don't know if she was having a hard time getting herself to do that, and I certainly was not wanting to go and rush into that. And I was just, I don't know. I was hoping that it would go away, and maybe if I hadn't said anything, the opportunity would have just gone away, and everybody would still be alive. So I failed on that one too.
You were telling Dr. Johnson that on 2 occasions you said to Michelle Anderson she needed to do it now, or you guys needed to leave because time was growing short. Scott and Erica were coming.
I only remember saying the one time what I already pointed out, that I had told her, if you're going to do this, then do it now, and if not, then let's just go. Because and the line before that is, they're coming up soon, so if you're going to do this, then we should go, and if not, if you're going to do this, then do this. If not, we should go. Like I said, I was trying to go off and get us. I was trying to give her an out. She took it as egging her on. And that's my fault for phrasing it poorly, and maybe if I hadn't brought it up, as I said, if I hadn't brought it up at all, maybe the opportunity would have passed. Everybody would still be alive, and everybody would still be happy. But maybe things would have turned out the way that they did. But they did. And maybe it is because I went, maybe if I hadn't brought it up, there's a pretty good chance that if I hadn't brought it up, she would have not done anything at all. I hadn't thought of that at the time.
Mr. McEnroe, you said to Michelle Anderson, when time was growing short, when you were concerned about Scott and Erica and the children arriving, you said to Michelle Anderson, if you want to do this, then do it.
No, I said, if you're going to do this, then do it. If not, let's go.
And you told her the problem was you would be, quote, stuck with everyone, unquote, if she didn't.
That there would be much more people there, and it would be much more difficult to keep her safe if everybody else was there, yes.
And her response to you was, after you said to her, if you're going to do it, or go home, was, okay, you go off and keep on Mom, and I'll do Dad.
That's how she said it, yeah. That was her response. And at that point, I realized that I had screwed up, but at that point it was too late, so I just accepted it and went with it.
Yeah, this is a good time for break.
Great, okay. Please leave your notepads and pens there on the chairs. Don't discuss the case amongst yourselves during the break or do any research. And we'll see you back here